authentic conversations over dinner with Alicia and Aniyah.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Authentic Conversations Over Dinner. I'm your co-host, Alicia.
And I am your co-host, Aniyah.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to maintain your morals and values in today's society and culture. Okay. So we are, of course, living in a fast-paced time where we are influenced with the culture. We have social media, we have TV, we have the internet, and we have all of these different sources where it can have influence over us, whatever we watch, whatever we're listening to, and whatever we're seeing. And we can be easily influenced by the culture. And I know as a woman of God, sometimes it's hard for me to say no to certain things or to maintain my integrity, my morals, and my values. And I know some of the things that I hold fast to is my faith. I know I talk about that a lot, but, maintaining my faith is something that has really helped me to stay focused and not easily distracted. I know sometimes we see what's happening on TV or, what's happening around us. And it could be so easy to influence the decisions that we make, right? How we dress, how we treat others, how we respond to certain things. And so for me, faith is definitely something that has helped to guide and direct me for a very long time. Not saying I'm perfect now, okay? Nowhere near perfect, but it's helped me, sometimes when I go off on the deep end, it's helped to recenter me and to refocus me. And I'm going to let my girl Aniyah, so I know I put it on you, but if you want to share.
Perfectly fine. I think for the most part, in order for you to maintain your morals and values in today's society, period, I think you have to know where you stand, right? You have to know yourself. I've found myself over time, like changing what I believed as, new information came in, new sources came in, right? New relationships came in, right? That's a big one because sometimes, we say we're not going to do this and that's not me and I'm not going to do this. But then when you fall into a relationship or you fall for somebody, you're like, okay, I'm willing to do this and I'm willing to do that. And for the sake of the relationship, or even a job, even when you have a job, you say, oh, I'm not going to do this. And, I'm not going to allow the job to make me, work, take my work home, or I'm not going to allow the job to make me stay longer than what they paying me for. But then when the job calls for it, you start changing, your conviction. So it's really important to know who you are and know what you can tolerate and what you can't, because when it gets to a point where you are, crossing those boundaries that you set for yourself, it becomes a problem, right? You begin to get into a place where you're like, I shouldn't allow that. I shouldn't have allowed that, but I did. And now it's a perpetuating cycle. Like, okay, now since you've crossed the line once, now they can cross the line more and you get you to work more hours. Or in the relationship, you've allowed this to happen and now your partner is doing more, and it's becoming more of a problem because you've allowed those boundaries to be crossed. So I think it's really important to know who you are. And sometimes we change, right? We grow, and things that once mattered before doesn't matter, along the line. But sometimes you have to know who you are. And like I said, you have to know where you are in life and know what's really important to you. Because when you understand that, then you set those boundaries and you don't allow them to be crossed regardless. I'm learning for myself not to let people talk to me a certain way. I grew up, in New York City, and everybody cursed each other out or whatever the case may be. And even in, my relationships, men would talk to me a certain way. And, I had a friend tell me, like, that's not cool, and I'm like, that was normal to me. That was normal to me. Like, that was like, okay, you curse me out, I'm cursing you out, and we hash it out or whatever and go on with our business. But then I'm like, no, that's not cool for no man to talk to me any kind of way, so now I'm able to speak up for myself and say, hey, you can't do that to me. This is not how you're going to talk to me. And when you figure out how to talk to me, then we can have a conversation. But until then, we can't talk. So that's important, right? Because it took growth on my part. It took understanding. I was very ignorant. I thought that was the norm, and it's not. So I think in this society, even with all the influences, because I mean, you may say somebody's doing something and everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, right? And you're like, is this even cool? Is this even appropriate? Is this, just because they're doing it, it doesn't mean it's okay. And you have to know what you stand on. You have to know that. And you have to be like, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean it's okay for me. And right now, I have taken the time to reinvent myself, who I want to show up in the world, or how I want to show up in the world. So that means that I can't let anybody talk to me in any kind of way. And I can't do certain things that everybody else is doing because it doesn't fit my brand, right? It doesn't fit who I am today. So I think that's really important. And once you know those things, I think it makes it really easy for you to not fall into, whatever's going on, in life. So
I just love my friend Aniyah because she's very wise. I mean, we're the same age, but I just look up to her so much, with her wisdom. And I think it's also important to surround yourself around people who are wise, who use wisdom, and who don't mind sharing their experiences. And Aniyah, has a lot of experiences. She is from New York, and she just told me her whole background story, and I just see how God has completely transformed her life. I mean, she is a living, breathing testimony. And so like I said, just surrounding yourself around the right people. And I know for me, I always turn it back to my faith, because sometimes you can get lost. You can get lost in the crowd. I was out there lost, because I wanted to be loved. I was searching for love in all the wrong places. And I found myself compromising those morals and those values because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to fit in with the culture. I wanted to feel like I belonged. But deep down inside, it didn't feel right, because I knew that that's not who I am. I'm like, this isn't who I am. Who am I? And so I found myself, having to, dive back into, the word of God, because it does tell you who you are. All you got to do is pick up the Bible and it'll tell you exactly who you are if you don't know who you are, fearfully and wonderfully made. And, that's something I had to just, even if I didn't feel it in that moment, it's almost like faith. When you open the Bible and when you get into the word, you may see something that it resonates in your spirit, but you may not feel that way in that moment. That's where your faith comes in. You have to have faith. It says it in your word, Lord. And so I'm going to stand on that. I don't feel that way, but I'm going to stand on it. And as I continued on, in my journey in life and just continuing to stand on God's word, I felt it manifest in me. I felt the confidence finally arising in me. And I'm like, oh, it's working. I feel it. I don't know how or what, but I feel that, and that's something I have to constantly practice, because like I said, as, we're growing and evolving, I know I always turn it back to losing my parents, but honestly, that to me shattered me. You may not see it, but it almost made me feel like, why am I here? what is my purpose? Pain? So it's, even now as I'm journeying and healing, I'm constantly having to remind myself of who I am and my purpose, and getting back into the Word of God. And I'm also reading books. So those are things that could also help you too. If you don't know who you are, you got to surround yourself around the right people, open the Bible, open a book, seek help. And just know that you're loved, regardless of what society says, you're loved.
I love that you say that because, especially going back to the faith part, right? And knowing who you are. And it's really in line with what I was saying as well.
Yes.
But you know who you are. When you start crossing those boundaries and you start like going against your morals and your values, it don't feel right. You said that. You know that is your intuition telling you that this is not it. This is not the path to take. And so it's up to you to not only, surround yourself with people that are moving in the direction that you're moving in, but also people that have your same morals and values, right? Because when they can check you when you don't check yourself.
Yes.
You have having that good old friend that's going to tell you, no, Naya, you wrong. That was wrong, right? Because that's important, because even though you can come up with all the things in the world, all the reasons in the world why you justifying why you're doing what you're doing, or you did what you did. I think I have some people in my life that would tell me, no, you looking at it the wrong way. Look at it from their point of view. How would you feel? That is something that you would not normally do. All those things they would tell me, just to make sure like I'm keeping track of who I am. I'm staying in line with who I am. So I think that's very important. Surrounding yourself with people that's like-minded and that share those same values that you do.
Absolutely. Really, and you know the difference between a hater and somebody that loves you, because sometimes you may have
they're gonna tell you the truth.
Girl that will tell you can't or you shouldn't, but if it's coming from a place of love, because they're looking out for your best interest. And sometimes it's not gonna feel good. You're gonna be like, well, but that it's from a place of love and that they're looking out for you. Okay.
Like,
versus somebody that's
my
just
friend. You're supposed to be on my side. No.
Right.
The best friends are the ones that be like, you're wrong.
Exactly.
Right?
Are not afraid. The
and
truth in love, though. Speak the truth in love.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely. And that's where it's coming from. And you know that. Yeah. So I love it. I love this conversation. I think sometimes we let social media get in the way of like, oh, what's the new trend, right? What's going on, and we want to be down for it. But actually, in all actuality, when you start healing, when you start growing, like I tell my kids, I set the trend. I'm sorry. I don't follow no trends. I set the trend for me. Okay. And how that looks, it's how I determine it. So I want you to understand, like, no, I don't have to follow any trends. I set my own trends.
And we're mothers too. So I do think that it's important that we are setting that positive example for our children, because everything that I do, I have to think about how it's going to affect my child, how it's going to affect my family. So that is really what transformed me too. Becoming a mother completely changed who I am as a person. And I know that if I do this, it's going to affect everybody around me. So just being mindful too of the decisions that I make, and knowing that it's not only going to affect me, but it's going to affect everybody else, and being aware of that. And like Aniyah says too, you could be a trendsetter. You never know, just putting yourself out there, and who could be watching you, even people that we don't know. So being aware of how you're conducting yourself, and not, like I said, not being easily influenced by the culture, but letting God influence you.
Right.
Yeah.
For real. I think for me, I have a 16-year-old daughter, right? And so she's following my every single move, and I know it because she's just like me. She's a Gemini, just like me.
You look
And
just like you too,
and
twins.
you know what? And I see like her ways are exactly how I was, like same exact, like she's like a complete reflection of me. So sometimes she shows, I'm seeing myself through her, right? And I'm just like, okay, how would this look? How am I making her look? Because really, if she's a reflection of me, I'm a reflection of her as well.
Yeah.
She's seeing me as an adult. She's seeing herself through me as an adult.
Yeah.
And so she's learning, right? She's learning vicariously what to do, what not to do through me. And I have to be that example. I have to set that example for her because I want her to understand that you don't have to follow everybody. You don't have to follow what's going on. Like, you got to be the one to set the trends. Like my daughter, she when she first came to high school, she had this red hair. And I tell you, like after she did that, everybody else started having these bright red hair. And I'm not saying like that's the first time it happened or like but I'm saying she set the trend for herself. She established herself, and then everybody else began to follow. And I wanted her to know that, like, you don't have to follow. You create who you are. You stand out and be who you want to be. And people are going to see that, and they are going to want to follow, and they're going to want to be like you. You don't have to be the follower. So I think it's really important that these lessons we're teaching our kids, and we're setting the example.
I love that. And one thing that I carry with me, my dad always would say, be true to yourself. And everybody else, the right people will know who you are. You will attract the right people that are right for your personality, right for your purpose, like you said, right for your morals and values. Because when you're fake, you don't want to attract, you're going to attract people that are not right for you. So
exactly,
just be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Follow your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, then it's 9 times out of 10, it's not right. It's not right. So that's what I'm learning too, just trusting my instincts, because you told me a long time ago, Aniyah, you said that faith is also following your intuition, because sometimes we want to convince ourselves like, nah, maybe I'm tripping, maybe I'm just not. But faith is also, if something don't feel right, maybe you need to follow that instinct and trust yourself, trust that you are making the right judgment, rather than what society or other people are telling you.
I think, yes. Go ahead. I think what we fail to realize is that we are connected to God, right?
Yes.
Connected to our higher spirit, we are connected to our higher power. And so when we talk about faith is that inner knowing, is exactly the same as your intuition, right? Because you're moving in faith, that means you're moving in your own knowing and your own connection with the highest power. So I think for the most part, like, we're saying the same thing, right? We're saying the same thing. It's just God has put it in you to already know what you need for yourself. It is up to you to follow that and to let go of all the information that we've gathered in our lives and experiences that prevents us from moving forward in faith. So that's what it's all about. It's really that knowing, that understanding that I have the ability to make the choices that I need, and I don't need to follow anyone, because what's best for me may not be best for everybody else, and what's best for everybody else is not be.
Girl, I mean, that's nothing but the truth. And it's helping me right now. But so that's just some things that, we wanted to share with anybody that may be struggling with their identity and, trying to figure out their way. Just, listen to that still small voice. Don't be afraid to, find resources out there. There's resources, there are books. Right now, I'm currently reading The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And I love that book, because it comes in an actual book. It comes audible. It comes with a journal. You could take notes in that. It's biblical practices, and it's really helping me. It's a 40-day journey, and I absolutely love it. The Bible, of course, hanging out with people that have wisdom, wise counsel, okay, is important. And anything else, Aniyah?
I just know that sometimes it's difficult for us to really figure out how we want to show up in the world, right? So I think it's important for us to read, grow, heal. And how do you do those things? It all depends on, your level. It depends on where you are in life, right? Some people can read books, some people can need a friend, or some people need a therapist, whatever it takes. But for the most part, you have to find who you are and what you will tolerate and what you like and what you don't like. And then you have to decide what is important to me and what will I allow in my life and what I will not allow. And then you take those steps, and whenever the opportunity is presented, then you determine whether or not this is important to you. Those values, those morals are important to you. And that's your actual time to apply what you said you will do. And it's a test to yourself. So make sure that when you are in those situations, that you hold true to yourself, regardless of what others may think, or don't even think about the outcome. Think about what in that moment, what you value, what is true and honest to you. And then you go from there.
I love it. And can I say one more thing too? I think too, don't get caught up in your mistake. I think, sometimes you may feel like I keep messing up, I can mistake after this mistake, and here I go again, and here. You just got to keep going, keep growing, keep learning.
I don't look at things as mistakes anymore. I don't think there's a mistake in life. I think there are roads we take, and there are choices that we make. Yes. And guess what? It's going to lead us either into a lesson, or it's going to lead us and all those lessons will eventually get you to a blessing. So I think regardless, there's no mistakes. There are choices. Absolutely. Good or bad. I don't believe in like whether they are good or bad. I think people look at it as good or bad, but I think every single opportunity, every single choice is, like I said, either a lesson that's going to lead up to a blessing. So I love it all. I appreciate it all. I'm grateful for it all.
Amen. And on that note,
thank you guys for listening in and sharing with us. Please make sure if you like this, you click on the like button, you subscribe, you share it with a friend. We hope that you receive some valuable information from the information that we shared today. We will hope to see you soon on our next one. You take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye. See you on the next episode.
Conversations over dinner.